With my dad turning 81 this week, I wanted to do a celebration with one of his best buddies. Coach John Kieffer has been a part of my life, my entire life. And my dad and Kieffer have coached together since 1973. It's a pretty cool story. They still talk once a week, every week, even though they live in totally different cities and different states. So hope you get a chance to enjoy this, and it's pretty cool. So hold tight. Thanks. We'll start with Kieffer's questions, but we'll get to some of the other stuff. So how did you first meet Dad, and what were your first initial impressions of him?
I think that I met you on the practice field, if I'm not mistaken.
You're okay.
Bob, you gotta help me with names here. Who's the superintendent that hired me?
Dick Krause.
Dick Krause came over to Boy Scout camp and hired me on the spot pretty much. But I think that was because he and my uncle knew each other pretty good. And, and had I met you before I showed up at the practice field for summer practice?
Yeah, we talked once, and I don't remember the details, but we did talk once.
I don't remember.
You were at Patrick, you were at the school, and we talked, and I don't remember anything other than that, other than the next thing you were the coach. And I said yes.
What year, Kieffer, what year is this?
73.
Where'd you come from before that?
I came from the College of Worcester. And I had no job possibilities. I was going to go back to grad school and get a master's in geology.
There you go. That was 73. So what year was that of the program at PH?
What, that was the third year, I think.
Kieffer,
don't know. I believe you.
Okay.
It was either third or fourth year.
So Kieffer, that was your first coaching position, yes?
That was my first coaching position.
How old would you have been in 73?
How old would I have been? 22.
Dad, how old were you?
It would have been
52 years ago. 51 years ago. 80 minus 51.
I don't have my calculator.
29.
I didn't think you were that old. 29. I would have been one. I was one when Kieffer came around. So you had me when you were 28, I guess. You don't know. You have no idea.
No, I was before that.
All right, that's way too deep. What? All right, so that was the third year of the program, 1973. So was that after was that the year? Oh, I'll get to that later. All right, here we go. Kieffer, can you describe a memorable moment from those early days of your friendship?
They're all memorable.
Yeah,
I know.
They're all memorable. The whole process. This guy had a coaching philosophy that was almost 100% positive. And
that's very different today, right? Back then.
And I grew up with some coaches most of the coaches that I grew up with were very positive people, but they could also ring me out pretty good.
Yeah.
And Bob was almost 100% positive. Now, he did hold people accountable real well. I think that was another thing that I think was interesting. And he also had a philosophy about training rules, and that was he won't go kick you out. And I grew up in systems where if you screwed up, you were probably going to be gone. And for a while, it was interesting. I had trouble embracing that. And then I found out why would you kick a guy out? You can't help a guy if you kick him out. You can't help him if you boot him out of the system. He also cannot help you. He cannot help your team. And so why punish the entire team? It'd be much better for his bear crawl to push up into about a mile worth of bear crawl.
What's the story with the bricks? Tell the story of the bricks. I still remember that. How did that start? Who was in charge of that, and who objected to that? The bricks that you had to run with.
I came up with that.
Dad, what's the story, Dad?
Is that the one at Defiance?
No, you had them at PH, I thought, didn't you? The painted bricks, and you ran with the bricks, or no?
It was all Defiance.
Oh, that was Defiance? Okay. All right, let's let that go then. That's all right. I just don't want to get.
No, wait a minute. I think that it was a genius move because we could not overcome people's minds.
All right, set it up then. Tell me the story. I don't know.
They were so negative in lack of belief in themselves. Here's the biggest school. They were the biggest school in the conference, weren't they? Or at least close to it.
Right there, yes.
Puck was pretty big too.
And at PH, we were the smallest school in the conference.
Exactly.
So what was the concept of the bricks?
Go ahead.
It was it doesn't take any musculature to hold up bricks at all. It doesn't take anything. It's just painful. And you could hold them up all day if you could conquer your mind. And so we're working on the mind, and that was, we're holding up these bricks, and you can and preaching at them. If you can overcome your negatives in your own mind, that you can do anything. And we know that. We know this came up this morning or this afternoon at City Gospel, because we were talking about the power of the mind and how we don't use much of our mind. And if you could conquer that mind, you could do so many things. We would amaze. The Thomas Edison quote is, if we could conquer the mind, we would amaze ourselves at what we would accomplish.
Yep.
And so that was, the bricks were a way to do that. And we allowed them to paint on them. They could paint anything they wanted to within reason on the bricks. And I thought it was a fantastic move.
I didn't remember. I do now remember. I thought when you got in trouble, you had to run with them. Did you also have to do that around the track or around the field or whatever? Or no, did I make that up, Dad?
Run with them anyway. It wasn't really a punishment as much as it was overcoming your mind. We had other stuff to punish them for screwing up. That was no problem. We could find all kinds of stuff there.
All right, Kieffer, tell me about, if you think back 51 years ago, what think about not knowing Dad, you guys start coaching together. Describe or think about what that relationship was like way back then, and then an evolution of it in those first years. How did you guys hit it straight off? How did that look? Tell me about your relationship.
I hit it straight off. I don't know, Bob, I don't know how you felt about me, but I was enamored with your ability to help people grow.
What was your coaching responsibility? What was Dad's?
I was defensive back coach, and we were two platoons. So I was a defensive coach with Lynn Martin. Mm-hmm. And of course, what did I know nothing about? Defensive backs. I had no idea what they did back there. They're just running all over the place. As a linebacker, when we watch the ball go in the air, we'd go, oh crap, now what's going to happen? You know? And that was a great learning experience for me.
Did you guys when would you say you guys were became buddies?
I think right away. I don't know.
Dad, what'd you think when you had this young guy, new guy?
When did we start construction, John?
It was probably right away, wasn't it?
That's what I thought, yeah.
Do you remember the first project you guys did? Summer jobs to compensate? Was it simply for compensation, for money, to get money, or was it for fun, or both? How did that start? What was the first project?
It was for money.
Yes.
Any idea what the first project was? Can you remember? I remember the one that was the 2-story house. I think that to be the last one that I remember, but do you guys remember what the first one was?
One of them was your house, John, that we did work on.
I think that's the 2-story one. That's the one that was on Main Street or whatever. Kieffer and I have talked about this once before, relatively recently. I remember that one. That he got stuck on the roof.
No, that was one of the last years. That was.
All right, so I'll be quiet. You guys tell me what you think the first project was. Tell me about, how did it come together? Did you buy it? You borrowed it? What'd you do?
I think we were just pouring a pad. I think we were just doing a patio pad for somebody.
Geyser.
That's right. We did a couple of patio pads for different people.
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
Certainly, Diane was one of them.
Yeah.
We did a lot of work for the guy that owned the bar.
That was same year we did Geyser, because I fell off the roof that year, and then the next day we worked on Geyser's thing.
Yeah.
Night I almost cut my finger off.
Dad, would our house in Deschler, would you guys have already built that house? The house
that was done. John wasn't there yet. John missed that one.
Before John.
I've heard stories though. The stories.
All right, so let me bring you back then, because we could get lost on that one. So geysers, what else? When did we start? So my memory was you guys were remodeling houses. Am I remembering that wrong?
We did some remodeling. We bought a house together, and Bob was the genius, the construction guy. And I was just like anybody else, all the other peons that were the ball players that we hired and stuff. And it was just before the blizzard. So as soon as we got that thing built, we still owned it during the blizzard of 78, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up living there because my house was just down the street, half a block. And my house was devastated because it was both houses were hot water heat, weren't they?
Yeah, but you had the radiators.
We had big old cast iron radiators.
And that's what got yours in trouble, where the other house didn't have radiators.
No, it was still like that because it was baseboard. I guess you wouldn't call those radiators, would you? It would be just baseboard hot water heat. And Bob taught me how to sweat copper pipes together. And I've used that several times since. He taught me a bunch of stuff, man. He taught me a bunch.
Now, during that blizzard, Dad, when you guys went to cut wood and the tree fell on your head, do you remember that, first of all? And I know Kieffer didn't live near us, but for some reason I feel like he might have been a part of that too. No? Does that ring a bell, or you still don't even remember getting hit by the tree?
No, that was near our house. I couldn't get to Kieffer's house.
Yeah, but I felt like Kieffer was somehow, anyway, yeah, okay, let's keep going then. So you guys are building houses.
We dropped the tree on top of my truck one time.
Yeah, we did that too.
Go ahead, tell that one, please.
We had this idea that we didn't want to have to work and drag tree trunks through deep snow, and the tree was on the edge of a ditch bank, and so we tied it up to my truck and dropped it right on top of we kept it out of the ditch though.
Yeah,
Bob, that was the good thing.
yeah, there's always good to something.
Yeah, oh yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna pause right here. Surely some memories are starting to pop up with some of these stupid stories. I got no notes to ask about that. So is there one that just popped up, or do I keep going? You guys, I'll let it be.
The key was that I'm standing next to this tree and I'm pulling it with my truck, and he's waving, and I thought it meant keep going. And I think it meant, in retrospect, it meant stop.
Any idea when this would have been, year-wise, earlier or later in your coaching?
It would have been later, and I don't know. It was in the middle.
Here we go. How did you and Bob handle disagreements or coaching differences in philosophies, and parlay that into a significant argument between you two? I guess whether it was coaching or otherwise. Surely there's been one.
I think the way we made decisions were in concordance, not consensus. We have to both be on board with it. But I also valued Bob's opinion. And when we were stuck with something defensively, and the fact that he allowed me to run the defense, probably a couple of years in, how long was Lynn? Lynn left pretty quick after I was.
Yeah, I'm thinking like either the first or second year.
Yeah.
You went from new kid to defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Okay, then what year was the year that you guys went to state?
I believe it was 78.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. I think it was 78. And then the next year, 79, we should have gone.
We had a better team.
All right, but I got us way ahead. I thought that was earlier. We should have had Bernie on as a regulator. I'll have to have him review this. All right. So, Dad, or one of you two, I know y'all had an argument somewhere, whether it's building a house or otherwise. Think back. Somebody tell me a story about an argument you guys had.
Do we have any arguments, Bob?
Surely.
I can't think of a one.
Maybe you're being kind, but I am an ass when it comes to getting along with people. And I got along with Bob great the whole time. And I think he treated me with such a high level of respect that I felt great about it. I was always really it was hard for me to face somebody that treated me with a low level of respect. I know sometimes with coaches, there was a time at Defiance where this young guy had been hired to be our 7th grade coach. And we'd asked him to run our offense and our defense. I don't know whether you remember this or not, Bob. And he wasn't doing it. He was just doing his own stuff. He's running triple reverse options and all kinds of weird crap. And Bob called him in, and we're listening to him. And for some reason, he had in mind that it was good for him to show that he was his own man. And we asked him to run it, and he had agreed to it and then decided not to. And he, at the end of the conversation, said, if I had to do it over again, I'd do it exactly the same way. And I just turned to Bob and said, fire him. Fire this guy. This guy is an idiot. We just discussed it the whole time, and he still is saying there's no way that he would do it.
You remember this, Dad?
Bob, did you fire him? You didn't fire him, I don't think.
You remember it, though?
I don't have the power to do that anyway, really.
You remember it?
No, I actually don't remember.
Oh, wow. Isn't it?
I do remember him not doing what we wanted him to do, but I don't remember getting into it with him.
I don't know. What are you thinking, Bob?
I don't remember you and I ever getting into going.
And as many times
he pissed you off sometimes because I know you didn't want to go get him out of the quarry. I can remember not wanting to have to go get him out of the quarry.
Yeah, but we did, and no problem.
All right, let's tell that story. We put the motorcycle.
It was more than once.
We put the motorcycle in the back of the station wagon. I was sitting back there, fuel leaking on me, yelling at you guys, it's leaking on me, and you guys were telling me to zip it.
I don't remember.
You couldn't handle it more than us.
I was 5. Come on, give me a break.
There's one time didn't we put 2 motorcycles in there? Didn't we put my Benelli in there too on top of the dirt bike? Because wasn't Teddy along with us too? Teddy and I had ridden the bikes to the high school, and they both died. There's something wrong when a guy owns 2 motorcycles and they both die at the same time.
So let me ask you this. Am I remembering a quarry right, though, or no?
Yeah.
Okay, so then it just dawned on me. How would you have called us back in that day? How did you call us?
I don't know.
Good question.
Boy, that is a good question. Maybe I walked down who lived close there is Jim. My Uncle Jim. Maybe I walked a mile down the road to Uncle Jim's house and used his phone. That's the only thing I can think of. How else?
That would have had to have been it. Yeah. Or at the quarry station or way station.
There was nobody there.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm sure that I was trespassing significantly. But wouldn't they have been? They don't want guys riding dirt bikes down.
Good point. Yes.
Maybe in 78 they still didn't care about that.
I don't know.
All right. So how did you and Bob support each other in tough times?
When you win, you don't hear the bad stuff. And this came from us talking about these things. When you lose, the people that are for you don't say as much. And so you can hear the people that are complaining. And there were times, and it was probably, I'm thinking about, what would you pick as the toughest? I got a time frame in my mind. What would you pick as the toughest time frame for you and me in coaching? Outside of the last year in Defiance.
Oh, it would have been probably 3rd or 4th to the last year when we weren't winning championships. We were only in 3rd place or 2nd place.
That's true.
What do you think it was, Kieffer? What was in your mind?
We started, it was what Bob's talking about. I think we lost our first 4 games of the season, maybe. I know that, I think we were 0-4, which is crazy. And then Miller died that Saturday night
Oh, I forgot. Yeah.
or Friday night. I can't remember whether it was after prom.
Saturday night. It was after the game.
And he was a lackluster player, but he was a great leader. He was a very positive, played. It wasn't like he was bad, but he was not a star, but he was just a good stabilizing influence for our team. And we get the word that Miller's dead. Miller is dead. And it just blew, it was hard. It was hard. And that, what did that start, Bob? What happened from that point on?
His dad was on the sidelines with us every game from then on, and his dad didn't want him playing football. But after that, his dad was on the sideline with us every game, and it was a turnaround.
There's more to that. What is it,
He didn't
Keith?
lose any more games that year.
That's what I thought you were getting at. I didn't know that. Didn't lose any more, huh?
And then I think that was, then the next year was when, that would have been Billy's junior year, I believe, and Jeff Meyer and all those guys. It would have been Danny Deem's senior year, I think. Danny Deem would have been, because he graduated a year before Billy. And we were undefeated that year, I think, weren't we?
We tied one, I think.
Who did we tie?
I don't remember ever. No, we weren't ever undefeated at Patrick Henry.
Tying that doesn't count as a loss.
Yeah,
so we were defeated.
But it wasn't a perfect season.
No, it wasn't a perfect season.
That we never had a perfect season at Defiance.
Who the heck tied us?
I'm trying to think, but that was the year we went to the playoffs.
That's right. Then that wouldn't have counted as an undefeated season because we did lose to Ashtabula St. John's. You're right.
Okay, no, we lost to Montpelier that year. And then all the way through, we didn't know what would happen. And Wauseon beat Montpelier, and we beat Wauseon.
Yes. And Wauseon was great.
All right, here we go. Let's get into it. I've been trying to avoid football first, but here we go. Looking back on the success of the 70s, what do you both consider your greatest achievement as coaches? Both of you. Let's go.
Yeah, I think going to the state playoffs would have been certainly a result. Was it the greatest? That team that we had in 78 was just a joy. It was a fun group of people to be around. They gave us as much guff and played around. And when it was time to get serious, it was incredible how they'd get serious. And Wauseon was just the opposite. Wauseon was, when the pressure got on, they just would fold. It was amazing because there'd be a call that would go against it. There's always a call that goes.
Are you meaning Defiance or do you mean Wauseon?
No, I'm talking about when we played Wauseon at Patrick Henry.
I got you.
And they knew that we had their number too. And Billy was just, we were down by 2 touchdowns with 5 minutes left, weren't we?
We were down, yeah.
We scored twice in the last.
I think you're right, yeah.
And it was just, Billy's going, come on, we're good here, coach, calm down. You can have an aneurysm. And we got the ball back and started driving it down the field, and they just melted. And I felt that pressure before, especially on defense against Wauseon when they were driving it right down the field, down our throats, and there was nothing I could do to stop it. There was nothing I could call. They were just outmanning it. They were running that double tight end, tight wing formation, and with no splits. They're standing on each other's toes and just running that belly option right in our face. And we could have put everybody over there and they could have still run it. I think that we could have put the whole team on that side of the defense. They would probably be smart enough not to run it on that side at that time. And that's what we were doing against them. And it wasn't power. It was just good It was just good play calling on Bob's part and just tearing them apart, running an option here and then mixing it up every once in a while. And we ran right down the field and scored. And then we came back and got the ball back. I don't know if it was an onside kick. Maybe we stopped them. I think we just
We
stopped
stopped
them.
them. Yep.
And they punted to us and I think we had a long run there. It was an option pass, I think, or something like that. I don't know.
Dad,
And
what do
then-
you consider your greatest achievement as coaches?
The one thing that when we went to the state playoffs, people look at the state playoffs today and it's not that hard to make it. But the year we made the state playoffs, there were 3 divisions and only 4 teams from each division went. There were only 12 teams in the state of Ohio that went that year.
And there were only 2 sets of games. There was a state semifinal, and then there
And
was
a
a
final.
state final.
Yep,
So-
that was it.
Yeah.
And
Go ahead.
that was that when you're one of 12 teams in the state of Ohio that get to go. And part of what's so different now, we were playing teams way bigger than us because there were only 3 divisions. Now there are 7 or 8 or something like that divisions.
I think you're 7 for sure.
7 of them now. And
Yeah.
you're playing people pretty much your own size, but we were playing teams way bigger than us. And to me, that was the biggest accomplishment that we still made it with all of that. And the next year we had a better team, but because of that only 12 teams gone, we didn't make it. We had as good a team, as good a record, but it was pretty hard to make it.
My favorite achievement of both of yours is the fact that those boys are still all running that in some way right now. It's the craziest story there is. Craziest story. I guarantee that's enough to make a Netflix movie right there. All right, here we go. Let's keep going.
James,
Sheriff.
I could add this. I think when we turned around the program at Defiance, and we did turn it around, there's no question about that, because we went 7-3, and I think we were 3-6 the first year, and maybe I don't know. Well, it was 3-6-1, and I think we were maybe 4-6 the following year, and I think our third year was when we were 7-3, and that was a big. We might as well have gone undefeated.
That was our first winning season in 20 years.
Yes, that's exactly right. And I was on the team. I was on a team that played Defiance. Their last good season. Did you know this, Bob? At Shawnee, we were undefeated. We were 10-0. And the only team that scored on us was Defiance. The score was 12-6, and that was the only score that we had on us all year at Shawnee. And they were I think they were like 8-2 or something like that. But anyway, where were we going? Okay.
That was greatest achievement. We're moving on to your favorite game or season, which you guys have really, I think we may have hit this on what made it so memorable. I think we've hit that though, really. Anybody want to add anything on? So what year was that? The state year? Did we narrow in? Is it 78 for sure?
I think it was 78, but not sure. In 77, 78, somewhere in that vicinity.
How did you guys prepare for big games? Was there a particular routine or strategy that you found effective?
I think there was a particular routine. And because we'd review the films, and you and I would review the films, and then we'd get together with the whole coaching staff on Sunday, right?
Yep.
And then roll it out. And I can remember preparing because we didn't know who we were going to play. We didn't know who we were going to play in the state playoffs until right then, that Sunday.
Yep.
And I can remember staying up and working the whole
All
time.
night.
Yeah.
We went all night.
Yep.
We got films. Monday we went and we traded films, and we stayed up all night Monday night,
Right.
basically reviewing the films and putting a game plan together
Yeah.
for that game.
Yeah.
I can still remember very specifically that we'd take the film to get it developed. Sometimes you'd go that night, or once in a while we'd get and go on Saturday morning. But I remember projecting it with that projector on the wall in the living room at our house. Do you remember that?
Yep.
Yep. Yep. What about routine? Anything else on routine, Dad?
No, we were very much routine oriented. It was, this is the way we do it, and we did it always that way. And one of the things the kids still talk about very regularly that we preached, and John made mention of it early, PMA, positive mental attitude.
That's right. And I
How did
think
you guys how did you celebrate victories, both big and small, together with the team?
we enjoyed being with each other. And I don't know, what did we do anything special for
No, I
celebration?
don't think so. Not
Yeah,
for win or loss, nothing special.
I remember Mom used to make those chicken sandwiches, and the boys would come over. Was it regularly or once in a while? How did
After
that
the
come?
season, after the season, we had a big get together, and some of the ladies still talk about it. The cheerleaders were invited to come. Everybody that was part of the team was invited to come to the house, and we celebrated the season.
and we also had the cheerlead, not just the cheerleaders, but there were girls that would work putting together
Stats.
the stats for sure, but also they put together albums,
Yes. Yep.
picture albums and clippings and stuff.
For
And
the
it was
senior boys.
And it was unbelievable. It was unbelievable how detailed that stuff, how creative they were. It was fantastic.
Yep.
I've got a couple of those scrapbooks here, more than a couple.
Yeah.
Those are pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
All right. So I feel like we made it. It's pretty bizarre how this has come this way. Here, can you both discuss a turning point or a pivotal moment when your coaching careers that you guys occur that when your coaching careers occurred? So you hit that, but you wanted anything pivotal moment? Have we already hit that enough, or is there something that we could add to it?
Pivotal moment. I think a big pivotal moment was when we shifted our careers. And Bob did that before me. And Bob had found LMI. And that was a big deal right there. That was a big change where we started helping business people change their mindset. And Bob introduced me to that. And so, Bob, you changed my life a bunch of times. And it was
I don't think Dane knows this story, but it's an important one. One of the persons that had a bit to do with me getting out of coaching and teaching was, it was a teacher's husband who one of the things that hurt our senior year or our last year of football was we were not allowed to start football at the start of the football season. We weren't allowed to because they were putting a vote up for passing a school levy. And if the school levy didn't pass, we wouldn't have football, and we couldn't practice football until the vote took place. And the vote took place a month or a week after football season was supposed to start, but we couldn't start. And one of the guys who was very vocal was a teacher's husband who came to me numbers of times and said, sorry about this, but we need to vote this levy down. We can't let people threaten us like this. And I said, do you understand what you're doing to football? He said, there's things more important than football, and we need to vote this levy down. And I'm trying to explain to him that I didn't make a lot of money teaching, and he's thinking I made plenty of money teaching. And we just had a really big go at it. But his wife and I were pretty close as teachers. And right after the season ended, or down the road after the season ended, he was killed in a plane accident. Maggie Brewer, I think was Maggie.
Yes, that is it. That's it.
Yes. And I felt an obligation to go to the funeral home because of her. And I thought, but not him. I don't want to. But I
Yeah,
went.
yeah.
And she said, when I'm there, she said, I'm so happy you came. Ed had a dream and I want to share it with you. And I thought, I don't want to hear any of Ed's dreams. None of Ed's dreams do I want to hear. I didn't say it to her, but that's what my brain was saying, because he had a lot to do with me wanting to get out education. One day she comes to our door on Sherwood Drive and drops off some LMI note or books and said, I want you to look at these. And I said, oh, this was Ed's dream. And I said, okay. So she called me a couple weeks later. Have you looked at those books yet? No, haven't. I will, though. She called another couple of weeks. You looked at those books? No, I promise I will now, Maggie. And I looked at it, and it was Dynamics of Personal Leadership. And I got into that, and I thought, this is the best thing I've ever read in my life. Wow. And I called her, and I said, this is incredible. Tell me more about it. And she said, Ed had a franchise and wanted to start it. And I think you would be great at it. And I ended up buying Ed's franchise and starting LMI. And it's interesting how things can develop. But that was how we got into LMI, because of Ed's dream. And I didn't want any part of Ed's dream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that year, so the year of the levy vote, you did end up coaching that year. That was the Ophir year. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then Kieffer, did you stay another year after Dad was gone?
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
How was that?
I stayed on as a track coach. I was the head track coach that year. And so I'm implementing all this stuff. Bob had me go through a program and charged me for it. I still think, and he charged me for it, which was the best thing he could do, because I had the skin in the game that made me glean what I could out of it. And I did glean a lot. Man, oh man, it was life-changing. And then I used those principles that spring with my track team, and we won the league in track and took a bus. We usually did pretty good. Defiance was a good track team, but we never took a bus to the state meet before. We had a couple relay teams and hurdles and all kinds of stuff. And it was just a great experience.
That's
It
very
was
cool.
great. And I think I taught maybe even a year after that, but I was doing LMI on the side then.
Yeah.
So working under Bob.
All right. I'm glad you went there. I do want to go back just a few more over here. So let's go back to coaching football. So looking at the legacy of the teams you guys coached together, what do you hope former players remember the most about those times? Both of you.
Positive mental attitude was the one that we taught all the time and talked about. And that's one that I still hear players talk about. And one of the things that stood out to me that still sticks in my brain, and how different things were at Patrick Henry PMA, they understood it and lived it very hard. Try and get that translated at Defiance was very difficult. And I still remember one of the athletes once saying, PMA, pick my ass. That's how much we got through PMA to Defiance. And as I look back, if I were to start it all over again, it'd be very different from what I learned from LMI, but I didn't know that at the time, that our minds have a whole lot to do with where we are, and their minds needed a complete shift. And the advantage we had at Patrick Henry, we started at absolute zero. We didn't have to break one bad habit because there were no habits.
Yeah.
And any habit would have to be blamed on us because there were none. And that was the advantage we had at PH. And we went to Defiance, and they were used to losing for 20 years. So
Kieffer, how would you describe? I'm going to come back to you on that. No, go ahead. I'm sorry, but the question is going to be about Dad's pregame speeches. But go ahead on legacy. Go ahead.
I would also piggyback his idea that it was just football.
Yeah.
Basketball, track, baseball, all of those had winning records. It was just compartmentalized in the negative attitude because we had great athletes. We had really good athletes.
Yes.
But we had better talent at Defiance than we had at Patrick Henry from the neck down. But in their head, they just knew they were going to lose. And that's the way it rolled out. Dane, you were asking me.
Pre-game speeches, the old man's pre-game speech.
Oh, yeah.
What do you got?
I think that they were real good. They were positive. We always knew that we could win. We were never not in a game. And he did a wonderful job of telling people the truth. He didn't blow smoke. He told them what needed to happen and had them visualize the positive things rather than the negative things. And that it wasn't just pregame, but even reviewing films the previous week. We did not hammer people negatively about what they screwed up. Now, we use it as instruction, but we didn't run through, and even the coaches that I had in high school and in college, we just get ground into, what are you doing here? What are you doing here? That's the stupidest thing. What do you, get up. And so it was more fear and negatives that went into, and Bob didn't focus on that.
Where did you get that from? Because your mentor is Earl Bruce. So how did you not do that?
No, my mentor was my college coach.
Oh, but you went to Earl Bruce's camps where he screamed at you at camp at the coaching clinics.
Yeah.
Woody Hayes did.
That's what I meant. Yes,
and
yes.
Earl did too. Earl
yes.
was kind of negative.
I meant Woody Hayes though. That's embarrassing, but yes.
No, that's okay.
But yeah, I spent 4 years with Coach Me at Defiance College, and he was definitely, that's where I got all my coaching from. He was a Quaker, which was quite interesting. And that he was fanatical on training rules as a college coach. Where anything I did, all the rules that I had in high school level were what I learned in college. He didn't kick anybody off the team for breaking rules, but you ran 10 miles if you were caught drinking, and he went to bars hunting for people. Today they celebrate if you're not on drugs, and he hunted for people who were drinkers, and it didn't matter how good you were if you got caught, and he went hunting for him. The first time he ran 10 miles, the second time you're off the team, and he booted somebody that was a possible pro player. He booted him his second year.
Wow.
The best player he ever had.
Wow.
And the best player they ever had thought that he could do as he pleased, and got caught twice and booted. So that's where
looking back, what do you both miss about the days when you were both actively coaching? What do you miss most, both of you? Go ahead.
Gosh, I miss a ton, man. I miss the camaraderie, not just with the coaches, but with the players too. These people were my friends. Now, I also had to hold them accountable too, which was interesting. And I didn't have any problem with that. It was okay. I felt fine with holding them accountable. Tim Crispin, me running laps after practice. When he's screwing up, and he'd kid by saying, "Hey, coach, I got you in trouble again. We got to go run laps," because Bob had caught him doing something. And of course, Tim didn't understand that I was running laps anyway, so I might as well run them with him. I think that camaraderie, I think the X's and O's, the strategies involved, that was fun. And I still do that. And I've learned so much since then in thinking about things. It would have been completely different. And I still miss it. I just don't have the physical ability to be able to go out and coach any more than about 10 minutes per day. It just wear me out. So, well, and I think the love that we had between each other. Mm-hmm. Bob, I know that was the case. And yep. I love you. I love you as a brother. I love you as a mentor. I think maybe in retrospect, Dane, I would have loved to have had a dad. Now, this sounds like I'm putting my own dad down, but he was distant. He was not as interactive. I would have loved to have a dad like your dad. And so that's a big deal. That's a big deal. So
Thank
that
you.
might be all that I should be saying about that.
Thank you. What I miss, the camaraderie, all that John said, but the strategies. I still have the offense ready to go right now that I would run if I were coaching, and it would be very different than what we had then, but
Right.
it's ready to go. It is ready to go. Two tight ends, which no defenses would be used to seeing that. So I got to have two tight ends. I'm going to take a back and put him out wide because I don't want them all bunched in tight. I'm going to have split backs. One of the backs is going to be a fullback type person to run over people, and the other one's going to be a great running back to run around people. And I got it all up in my head already. It's ready to go.
Would you run the outside veer, Bob?
Oh yeah. But that's part of it.
I think that play, Dane, that play puts more pressure on defense than anything in the world.
The other one he tells me about, it doesn't matter how many games we've watched together, which are hundreds, if not thousands of games, but every time somebody lines up for an extra point and they do anything a little bit wickety, he'll always tell me the story about how you guys would line. And I still remember this. He doesn't need to tell me. Remember on the extra points where everybody lined to the left,
You bet.
and then you have to run down. And you know why we did this is because just during the preparation for the week, they'd have to take them off what they were preparing for to prepare for that. How many times have I heard that story? Tell me again.
Well, in disguising stuff, I think we've learned so much about faking the ball, and our quarterbacks faked really well.
That still drives me crazy. Still drives me crazy.
It is amazing how even at the professional levels that there are some coach quarterbacks that just do not fake the ball well.
Yeah.
They hand the ball off and stand there and watch.
Yep. That's exactly right. Or disguising a defensive backfield. You can tell by just looking at I can tell what they're in just by looking at the way they line up. That's stupid. That's stupid. You should not be able to do that.
Yep.
So, all right, then let's do this. Right towards the end, perhaps. If you could relive one day from the past together, which day would it be and why?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I think mine would be one of the coldest games we played ever, and it was the state playoffs. And I'd love to have that replayed because we could have beat them. We could have beat them not easily because it was a good game. But I still can see the play that scored that allowed them to win the game. What was it, 12-6? I think it was 12-6. I don't know. Maybe it's 12-8.
What I remember is we were going to go for 2 if we scored, and we'd already had we're going to fake an extra point. We had that all lined up, ready to go in case we ever needed it. And that was going to happen if we scored, and we didn't.
Yeah. So which game, Bob, or which day?
Dane's
good at this stuff, isn't he?
Yeah, I don't know. This one's I can't come up with one. I could come up with 100 maybe, but to take that 100 and make one, I don't think I can come up with one. You're as close as any because of the state playoff. You'd like to have that baby over, and yep.
I can remember a 5-minute period of time that might have been the first year that we coached, and we went to St. Mary's, and we had them so fired up, Dane. They kicked off to us. We drove the ball right down the field and scored against the best team in the state. And then we kicked out to them and they fumbled the kickoff and we got the ball in about their 20-yard line and blew the ball right in about 3 plays. And when the dust cleared, they were doing a running clock the third and fourth quarter because we didn't have anybody left to play. They just beat the crap out of us.
Yeah.
Can you guys think of the worst thumping you guys ever took? One particular thumping? The worst?
That would have been it, I think.
That what is it?
Any idea what the score was?
It's
Like
50
it was 66-12 or something.
yeah,
like
something like that. Yeah.
And it was again running clocks. It could have been 150
Yeah.
to 12.
So go back to the championship game. Can you? I'm sure. I was going to say, can you remember? But you guys remember it like it was. What were the emotions when the clock said 0-0?
I just was shocked. It was like I kept on expecting
Yeah.
that we were going to win.
That's where, yeah.
Go ahead, Bob.
That's where I was. Like I said, I had the extra point in my head already as to what we were gonna run for an extra. We were gonna fake the kick and score 2 because we didn't want to tie. I wanted to win right there.
That's right. That's right. And I can remember finding a penny that had Lincoln's heads up, and I brought it into the locker room, and everybody was pretty distraught. And I knew we were going next year, we're going to win it. Guys, we're coming back. Just found a penny.
Huh.
When I would have said now, God just gave me the idea that we were going to win. And should have.
And we had the better team the next year.
Dad, what'd you do at 0-0?
Do you remember going to watch Wauseon play? Because we only played 9 games that year. Because we wanted to save that last game for preparation for the state playoffs.
That's right. Yeah.
And
Wauseon played Fremont St. Joe.
yes, they did. And Fremont St. Joe's cheated
to beat them.
Yep.
Or we would have gone. Or we would have gone.
A quarterback or a center.
Carry the ball.
Yep.
Center fake a hike and carry the ball.
He ran straight ahead. Yep.
52 years later, despite living in different cities, you guys still talk weekly. What do you talk about?
Everything.
Yeah.
Dane, we talk about you. We talk about John. We talk about Mary. We talk about Susie. We talk about my kids. We talk about football. We talk about politics.
Yeah.
We talk about Trump and Biden. We talk about history. I don't know. What do we talk about?
Everything that you could think of.
It's a remarkable conversation.
Yeah.
Are you guys still talking every week?
No, he didn't show up last week.
Yeah, geez, what was the deal?
You were sick.
I was down for the count.
That's the first miss we've had. Well, that was 2 weeks in a row because I was in Lancaster the week before. And we hardly ever miss a week, and we missed 2 weeks in a row.
Let's go. Let's get it back on track. All right, last question.
We'll be back.
Last question for me, and then you guys can choose what we do or if we're done from there. What's the secret to maintaining a long-lasting friendship like you two?
I'd say continuing to enjoy each other and I don't think Bob really wants to talk to me every week. I think he just does it in spite of me.
No.
Don't tell him that I said that. But
you guys have been through a thing or two. If I really slowed down and let y'all think, you walked with Dad when Mom died, and I remember you were a knucklehead back in the day, a time or two that he walked through. You guys have been through a battle or two together off the clock.
He ripped the door off our one cupboard.
The pantry. The pantry.
The
Yeah,
pantry,
yeah,
because he
the
was trying to lock
pantry.
me in it.
You know what that was about, right, Dane?
I can't remember. You were mad at me about something, or I was mad at you
Well,
about something.
I was trying to quit smoking. With emphasis on the word try, I was not succeeding.
And I didn't leave you alone about that. Is that right?
Oh, all the time.
All right. So how do you make it last, Dad?
It's there. I don't know that we make it. It's just there. We're on the same page and want to talk.
Yeah, yeah. I really enjoy talking to Bob. Dane.
Yeah.
I really enjoy that.
Iron sharpens iron. You guys exemplify that.
And we've got to decide what defense we're going to run.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you guys really still talk about that? What defense you'd run?
You bet.
Periodically.
There would be so many different things that we could do.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It would be in simplicity, but yet making it look so complicated. But it would be very simple for us.
Yeah, that's the key.
Yeah, and they would not know what we were running. We'd be stumming because that's hard to handle when you're on offense, to handle guys jumping all over the place. But those guys know where they're going. And I think it'd really be interesting. And so the same thing offensively. I know that Bob, we'd have so many different things that would put pressure on the defense, spreading them out and running motion and shifting and running, flooding routes with one back in the backfield. It would be diabolical.
John, you're changing my offense.
And part of it would be, Dane, we'd go back to some of the old stuff, power football, that nobody knows how to defend anymore.
All right. That was an hour and 10 minutes, or actually an hour with all of my technical stuff. So do you want to ask each other a question, or are we done for the Dad? You got a question for Kieffer?
We covered quite a bit today. I'm sure that if somebody listened to this, they'd say, boy, those guys got no memory at all.
Oh, yeah, you did. You guys did pretty well together. That was good. Kieffer, you got a question for Dad, or are you good for today?
You came up with Ed's name. You came up with Ed's name. Meg
complimented each other pretty well. Dad, 80 years old. Happy birthday. I thought this was a cool way to bring back some of the days that you guys.
It was fun. It was fun.
That was
Thank
great.
you.
Dane, thank you.
Thanks, guys. Talk to you later. Love you, Dad. Love you, Kieffer.
Love you.
Hey, I love you too, Dane. Bob, I love you.
Love you.
I'll get it to you.